Hi guys, and welcome back to another Tech Minds video. So in this box we have a rather cool product that I've been wanting to test out for quite some time now. Now if you're interested in receiving signals from satellites, geostationary or orbiting like Inmarsat, Iridium, NOAA weather satellites or even the GOES constellation, then this will really help you improve your chances of capturing transmissions which are easier to decode. As with any radio receiving system, having the correct antenna is a must for optimum experience. The transmissions that come from satellites, whether they're geostationary or orbiting, do require the correct type of antenna, an RF filter and low noise amplifier to get the best reception possible. Now this is the Discovery dish, designed and manufactured from the same guys that gave us Kraken SDR, the rtl-sdr v3 and v4, and they run the rtl-sdr blog website. Different satellites that provide different services will no doubtedly use different downlink frequencies. This means we need to ensure the receiving part of the dish, called the feed, is designed specifically for the frequencies that we want to receive. Now the Discovery dish can be purchased with up to 4 different feeds. Now you can choose which feeds you want at the time of ordering. Now the first one here is an L-band feed, which covers from 1.645 GHz to 1.715 GHz, and this would be suited for AHRPT transmissions, which stands for Advanced High Resolution Picture Transmission. Now these are essentially the high resolution weather images that we get from the likes of NOAA, Meteor, METOP and GOES, amongst others. The second feed that I have here is another L-band feed, but this one is designed to receive slightly lower in frequencies for reception from the Inmarsat satellites, and this ranges from 1.53 GHz to 1.61 GHz. Now I'll be doing a demonstration of this later in the video. Now the next feed that I have here is specifically designed for receiving the RF generated from the hydrogen line. That covers from 1.38 GHz to 1.46 GHz. Now essentially this is radio astronomy. Now if you do not know what this is, then stay tuned, as later I'll be demonstrating this in a video and what software that I use to capture the H line. Now the last feed here is for the S band, covering from 2.2 GHz up to 2.3 GHz. Now this can be used for receiving telemetry from satellites that transmit their status information in this band, plus a whole load of other information. So that's the feeds, which we'll take a closer look at in a moment, but let's start building this main Discovery dish. Now the dish itself is 70 centimeters in diameter when fully built, and it's made from aluminium. Now it comes packaged in 3 identical petals, which you need to assemble yourself. Now this actually makes storage and travelling with it super easy due to its compact size when unassembled. Now in the box you also get a manual which covers all of the included parts and instructions on how to assemble the dish, including the mounting bracket. You also get all of the nuts and bolts and assembly plates you need to complete the build, so the only thing you will need will actually be a mounting pole. To start the assembly, you'll find 3 holes on each of the petal edges. Now I started off by inserting one of the short bolts through and then just thumb tightening the nut, just so that it gave me some movement while I was installing the other petals. Now once you have all of the 9 nuts and bolts through the petals, holding them together, you can then tighten them up while making sure each of the petals are still perfectly aligned. Now this process is super simple to do, and you can actually do it on your own if you need to. The next step is to assemble and install the feed mounting bracket. Now this starts with the round metal plate that fits in the center of the dish. Now using 3 long bolts which are provided, I place the part in the middle and then just drop the bolts through. Now this black plastic part sits behind the dish and is held in place via those long bolts we just inserted through the front. Now I first made a slight mistake. I accidentally installed it like this, but I soon realised that I should have installed the pole bracket onto that black plastic part before attaching it to the dish, because it kind of makes it difficult to get to the nuts. So attach the mounting bracket like this onto the black plastic part before attaching it to the rear of the dish. Also make sure that 2 bolts which have wing nuts are actually orientated like this, and not going against the mounting bracket because you just won't be able to turn them. Now the whole assembly will fit like this to the back of the dish. The 3 bolts that come through from the front hold this assembly in place with those 3 nuts that you can see on that black plastic part. Now also in the box of accessories you're supplied with a couple of U-bolts to help secure the dish to a mast. Now I actually only used one of these bolts as I wanted to adjust the elevation as well. You can easily attach the U-bolt so it can move within this mounting bracket like this. Now with the dish assembled, it's now time to take out one of the feeds. Now the first one that I'm going to try will be the L-band feed, designed for use with Inmarsat at around 1.5 GHz. Now the plastic case that's at the end of the feed also houses the LNA, which is designed for use with the frequencies expected for this particular feed. Now it is waterproof, so leaving it outside is perfectly fine. In the feed packaging, you'll also find this little reflector. Now this does need to be attached to the top of the feed. There's only one screw holding this in place, and the screw should already be inserted into the top of the feed. So you'll just need to unscrew it before attaching this little reflector plate. Just make sure you get it the correct way around. Now each feed comes with 6 meters of LMR240 equivalent coax, and this is not detachable from the feed, meaning when it comes to installing into the dish, you have to feed the coax through that center hole. Now each feed will have markings on the shaft, and one of those markings will be like a little arrow. Now I presume this is where you push the feed arm into within the hole within the center of the dish, just so that you get the correct offset, i.e. the distance from the center of the dish to the actual feed on the end of the feed arm. This should then place it at the correct focal point. So just feed the coax through the center of the dish and then carefully insert the feed until you reach the little printed arrow that's on that feed arm. Now once the feed is in the correct position, you can carefully tighten the 2 wing bolts which clamp against that white feed arm. Now this will securely hold it in place, but be careful not to over tighten these, otherwise you'll make holes in that plastic feed arm. They just need to be tightened up enough to lightly clamp down on that white feed arm to stop it sliding in and out. And there we go, the dish is now ready to be mounted onto a pole. Now what I found interesting about this dish is that it appears to have quite a wide beam. What I mean by this is that I knew roughly where to point the dish for Inmarsat satellite, and when I connected it to my computer, I could already see signals from Inmarsat. I then finally tuned the dish for maximum signal strength by moving it left and right and up and down while looking at the screen on my computer at the same time, just looking for the peak maximum signal. With the dish aligned pointing towards Inmarsat, let's take a scan through the L-band. Now the software that I'm using here is called SDR Sharp, which is made by Airspy. The SDR receiver that I'm using is an Airspy Mini, which is connected to a mini computer in my conservatory, and it's running the Airspy server software. Whether you're using an SDR server or connecting direct, do not forget to ensure that the bias T is enabled so that the LNA within the dish feed is powered on and working. Now as you can see here, the Discovery dish has absolutely no issues in receiving Inmarsat. Inmarsat is geostationary and can be received all around the world. You just need to figure out which Inmarsat satellite covers your area. For me in the UK, I'm pointing the dish south-southeast. Now Inmarsat contains lots of encrypted transmissions, but some are not, and those we can use software to demodulate and decode to something tangible. Now I do have videos on my channel covering these specifically, but the first transmission we can decode is ACARS. Now these are messages that are sent from ground stations to aircraft and vice versa. Think of them as text messages for aircraft. Now using a piece of software called JAERO, and if tuned to an ACARS channel, we can sit back and watch the messages appear on screen. Now there's 3 ACARS channel types or data rates. You have 600 bps, 1200 bps and 10,500 bps. Now there always used to be lots of traffic on the 600 and 1200 bps channels, but nowadays I find more traffic on the 10,500 bps signals. Now maybe if you've done this before, you can confirm if this is the case for you down in the comments. The 10,500 bps signals also appear to be a little weaker in signal strength than the 600 and 1200 transmissions, and sometimes I've struggled with these using other types of L-band antennas. But with the Discovery dish, it's pulling in those 10.5K transmissions solidly and consistently. Now, another interesting service on Inmarsat that we can look at is the safety net messages, which are broadcast for vessels out at sea. These messages contain lots of information, from piracy to mines to surveys and weather fronts coming in. Some of the messages contain coordinates that will relate to a certain area of the seas, and most of the time this can be seen outlined on the map here. Now, these messages can take a while for them to come down completed, but once you're tuned in to the correct frequency, the software will start to decode them. Now, the software that I'm using here is still SDR Sharp, but this is along with the SkyTail-C plugin and the Quick UI plugin, which is actually included. Again, I have a detailed video on this on my channel if you need help setting this software up. Another application that can decode some data streams from Inmarsat is called SatDump. It can decode the data that JAERO and SkyTail-C can decode, but there's one data stream that appears to demodulate and decode better than JAERO, and that's the Aero 8.4K. Now, I'm not going to elaborate on that any further than what I'm showing here for obvious reasons, but you are welcome to give this a try yourself and see what you can hear. Okay, so that's Inmarsat with the dish pointing directly towards the satellite. Now, if we take the dish and mount it like this, pointing directly up in the sky, using the same L-band feed or Inmarsat feed, we can receive another satellite, or maybe I should say satellites, because what I'm talking about here is Iridium. Now, Iridium has lots of moving satellites that transmit around 1.6 GHz. That's just on the edge of this L-band Inmarsat feed, but it does work. For this, I'll switch to using Linux, specifically Ubuntu, and the reason for this is that a specific set of tools designed for receiving and decoding packets of data from Iridium satellites are available on here. Now, you can use SDRs like rtl-sdrs for this, but the Iridium transponder bandwidth is larger than the rtl-sdrs can sample at the same time. So for this, I tested with a HackRF and an Airspy R2, which allows up to 10 MHz of bandwidth to be recorded at the same time. That means you get way more data in the same amount of time. Now, the way this works is that you use an application called GR Iridium to first receive and capture transmission packets to a file. Now, the longer you leave it recording, the more data you'll have to go through, which is a good thing. Once you have a decent sized recording of data, you can then use the Iridium Toolkit application to decode data from the recording you just made. Now, there's lots of data types that you can extract, and one of those is actually ACARS, similar to those messages that we saw earlier, decoding data from the Inmarsat satellites. As mentioned a moment ago, there's lots of other types of data for you to explore. Now, something I will not elaborate on any further in this video, and you can probably understand why. I do have a dedicated video on this channel if you wish to take a deeper look at what other packets of data we can decode and even listen to. Now, the next test will be with the H-line feed. So I just removed the Inmarsat feed from the dish and replaced it with the H-line feed. The hydrogen line is a radio wave at 21 centimeters. That's 1.420.4 GHz, and that's a signal that's emitted by neutral hydrogen atoms. Now, this helps astronomers map hydrogen in space, and that reveals the structure and motion of galaxies. Now, a lot could be said for this, but I recommend you perform your own research. But what you are looking at here is the hydrogen being detected using the Discovery dish with the H-line feed. The application on the left here is called Stellarium, and this is just for a visual representation of space at night from the Earth's perspective. It's not actually needed to decode anything. As the Milky Way moves in the night sky, we can see the signal strength and frequency of the hydrogen line at 1.42 GHz move. That's moving in both amplitude and frequency, and the frequency change is related to what's called Doppler shift. To be able to see this hydrogen line more clearly, this video sequence that you're seeing now was taken over a 10-hour period. On the top right, we're using a special plugin for SDR Sharp, and this is called the IF Averaging plugin. Notice how the waterfall from the SDR does not even show the hydrogen line. We can only see it with the Averaging plugin window. Now I'll leave links below where you can read all about the configuration and also to some of my other videos where I deep dive into the software configuration. Now the other two feeds that are left are the L-band feed primarily for each RPT receiving from weather satellites and the S-band feed for receiving satellite telemetry. However, these satellites are in orbit and not in a fixed location. Now I could have hand tracked these satellites, but the weather was not that great when I was recording this section of the video, so I cannot demonstrate these working at the moment. Now for this, the most reliable way to get a decent decode would be to use a satellite tracking rotator. Now unfortunately at the moment I do not have one, but some recent news was released from the team behind the Discovery dish, and they very soon will be launching a crowd supply project to build and sell tracking hardware suitable for the Discovery dish. Now this means you'll be able to attach the dish to the tracker and then automatically control where the dish is pointing from a motorized tracker, which will obviously include elevation. Now as soon as I can get my hands on either this new tracker or even something from the ham radio market, I will make some further videos on using these two other feeds. But for now, I think that has provided enough information for you to decide if you need one of these dishes yourself. Now I recently saw a little video clip of someone talking about the Discovery dish as a narrow band dish for use with QA100. However, I think more research and testing will be needed for that, but it's definitely interesting because the Discovery dish actually weighs less than 1 kilogram, so it's extremely portable, especially as the design allows the dish to be separated and stored in 3 parts. Anyway guys, that's the Discovery dish. I think it's an awesome design and pretty much your one-stop shop to receiving these satellites. Of course, making your own feeds is something that you can do as well if there's a specific frequency that you need. Anyway guys, there we go. Thanks so much for watching and I'll see you guys in the next video.